Testing 1, 2, 3.
That's great. That's great. Oh, it's still loud, so I can turn it down just a bit.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وآله الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. So this will be inshallah our last class on Ijtihad. I had also planned to do Taqlid if you remember, but changed my mind on that because this went much longer than we thought. And so the Taqlid part we'll have to do some other time, or maybe even turn it into another class, inshallah. So in this last class, I want to add a few more points regarding this aql, which is the fourth of the four sources of Islam and Islamic law and Islamic teachings. We already discussed the aql in its entirety last session. So here now I want to talk about some of the challenges that have been put forth in regards to dalil aqli, which means an aqli argument. What reasons do we have? Now, usually it'll be the akhbaris who are against this whole aqli dalil, but you'll also find today on YouTube and other places people arguing against ijtihad by saying that, oh, you guys use your aql versus the Quran and Sunnah. And so the arguments will be pretty, like one can guess what the arguments are going to be. Why would you have a problem with dalil aqli? They'll say, well, number one, history teaches us that using the aql in matters of religion is an innovation employed by other schools of thought, namely the Sunni school of thought, and some of their imams at least, like Abu Hanifa, because he would use his aql in a lot of things. It's called qiyas, we've already talked about this before, and there are other dalil aqlis as well, like istihsan and other things that will be used to come to a conclusion regarding Islamic laws. And so this is something the Sunni school of thought does, number one. Now someone might say, so what if the Sunni school does it? There's a lot of other things that the Sunni school practices that we also practice, we might also practice. It's not that just because the Sunnis do it is something that the Shia will stay away from. So for example, tafsir of Quran, Sunnis do it too, we do it too. Yeah. And it's not like we use our hadiths only for tafsir. We employ other methods as well to understand certain verses. We get help from other verses sometimes. So anyway, tafsir is something that also Sunnis do. It doesn't mean just because the Sunni school does it means it's going to cause a problem. But that's where the second point comes in, and it's very important. That, yeah, number one, it's a Sunni thing. Number two, our hadiths are telling us that this is a Sunni thing. Are telling us to stay away from this. That's the more important one. They are very clear on the impermissibility of using the aql in determining laws. For example, you'll have a companion that goes to Imam al-Sadiq and he asks him a question regarding blood money, diya. And so the Imam is speaking about, he's giving him the rule, and then all of a sudden this person is doing the math with the Imam as the Imam goes through the blood money for the finger, severing someone's finger unjustly. He says, one finger, 10 camels you have to pay them. If you sever two of someone's fingers, that's 20 camels. 30 camels, and then all of a sudden for the fourth finger it goes down to 20. Now the Imam here, when he says 20, this person is shocked. And he says, wow, it should be 40, this doesn't make sense. We used to hear this. And we would say, this is from shaitan. What is this like, The Imam says, wait a minute, mahlan, slow down, what's going on, what's wrong with you? And he ends with this line, the Imam. He says, إِنَّكَ أَخَذْتَنِي بِالْقِيَاسِ. You're doing qiyas, you're saying, okay, if 1 equals 10, 2 equals 20, 3 equals 30, then obviously 4 equals 40. But in that particular case that had to do with the severing of a female's fingers, the Imam, he explains why when it reaches 4 it drops to 20. He explains that. Now, is that a reliable hadith, is it not? I'm pretty sure, I think it was, but it's beyond the scope of this discussion right now. It's a fiqh discussion, but what the Imam says is one of those examples the Akhbari school will use. They'll say, look, the Imam is saying, you أخذتني بالقياس. You argued against me with qiyas. Yeah? But let me let you know, O Aban bin Taghlib, O companion, that Inna deen Allah la yusabu bil uqul. The deen of Allah, it cannot be reached with the minds of the people. Now obviously there's a discussion here, explanation about deen Allah doesn't mean like tawheed. That's part of deen too. But it's part of the usulud deen. There's no choice but to reach tawheed through aql. Nubuwwah and prophethood and miracles of prophets through aql. We talked about this last session. So what does it mean, deen Allah? What's for sure is, at least the laws of Islam cannot be reached through only the aql. How am I supposed to, if they give me 500 years, I can never come to the conclusion that Salatul Fajr is supposed to be 2 rak'ah. I can never come. Give me 500 years, I can never come to the conclusion 7 times around the Kaaba for tawaf. No? Yeah, so deen Allah here is talking about at least the Islamic laws. This is something that we can never get to. So the Akhbari school will say, look, that hadiths are, and that's one hadith, there's more. That one's a famous one that I shared. They'll say that the hadiths are clear that you're not allowed to use the aql. So number one, we look at that, it's something that the other school of thought employs. Number two, our school rejects. Okay, that's a very strong dalil. Next, we know for a fact the religion is complete, and whatever of rules and laws the people need till the Day of Judgment have been given to us. So, kitab and sunnah. This aql, what we know for sure is that we don't have a verse of Quran that talks about it, that, oh people, refer to the... we don't have a verse that says refer to the aql when it comes to the laws of the deen. We don't have hadith that say refer. We had the opposite. Hadiths that are saying don't refer to the aql when it comes to ahkam shari'iyya, Islamic laws. Yeah? So we know that during the Prophet's time this wasn't the case. You added this later. By adding this later, what are you saying? You are saying that the deen is not complete, at least when it comes to Islamic laws. And if the deen is not complete, the aql has to come and discover certain things that kitab and sunnah don't have. So that what happens? So that now the deen of Allah is complete. Right? Why would you add a source when the deen is already complete? That's the argument. It's a very good argument. It's a very good argument. So now some of the answers that are given though. That yeah, you're saying that in history shows us that in the past other schools of thought have used it, the imams have rejected it, all of that. Which aql are they talking about? Are they talking about any aql, mutlaqan, absolutely, or no? Specific things that the aql gives us, when we look at what the imams were talking about, what the imams' context was, what we find is that it's a context of the times of the likes of Abu Hanifa. What were they doing? They themselves know this. Abu Hanifa and the likes of Abu Hanifa themselves know this. They know that when they do qiyas, when they do istihsan, right? When there's no hadith, for example, on a particular issue, they have no choice, quote unquote, but to use their own mind. What do? They come to a dhanni conclusion. They say, it seems like this would be the case, and so we'll go with it. Well, why are you doing that? Because there's no hadith for it. There's no verse of Quran for this matter. So what am I supposed to do? The next thing in line is do dhanni aqli things. The Imam said, no. There's other things that you can do if you don't find it in the kitab and the sunnah. And we'll talk about this in the end. When you don't find something in kitab and sunnah, yeah, there are overarching rules that you can employ, and you can figure out what you need to do. You don't need to now use your mind and come up with something. Because it's not like you're going to always make something haram. Sometimes you'll say something is halal, make it easy on people when it's not supposed to be easy. Sometimes you make it hard on people when it's easy, actually. And we'll get to that. As I said, we'll have some examples in the end. So a dhanni dalil aqli is what is absolutely worthless in determining Islamic law. And the Quran said this, inna dhanna la yughni min al-haqqi shay'a. Dhan meaning 80% certainty, 70%, when you're not 100% sure. Right? So dalil aqli, if it's dhanni, we agree that you're not supposed to use it. And that is exactly what qiyas does for us. That is exactly what istihsan does for us. Yeah? Istihsan, an example maybe will be, okay, it's if women, the hijab is important. And so women shouldn't go to the graveyard because when they go and they're grieving over their loved ones, their hijab might go back. I feel like this is how it should be, istihsan. Istihsan means to consider something hasan. Consider something good. Makes sense, let's do it. All right, are you 100% sure? He himself will say, no, I'm not 100% sure, but it looks like this would be the case, and we don't have kitab and sunnah against it, so let's go with it. No. Inna dhanna la yughni min al-haqqi shay'a. Dhann does not help us when it comes to the truth in any way. Oh, but I'm 85% sure. That's not enough. You gotta be 100% sure. All right. So dhanni dalil aqli, yes, we agree. We put it aside. But that's not what we're talking about here. The hadiths that are talking about dalil dhanni is not what we're talking about when we say dalil aqli. Okay, we talked about this last session. We'll talk about it more this session. And that's why what other schools of thought did was to rely on the likes of qiyas and istihsan of the aql, something none of the Shia jurists believe in to begin with. Yeah. When it is said that the aql is a source of Islamic law, what is meant, this is another answer. What is meant is that it is playing the role of a discoverer, kashif of Islamic law, not a legislator. Otherwise, the deficiency of Islamic law is necessitated, and we have a problem with that. Let me explain. When we say kitab, sunnah, ijma', aql, okay, we don't say aql, as something that is going to make up laws now. Okay? Otherwise, yeah. If aql, after the Prophet, aql is going to be one of those things that is going to make laws, that's going to be a problem. That means that is going to make laws that weren't there before. That means that the Sharia was incomplete and the aql needed to complete it. We're against that too, because that means the Sharia is not complete. We have a problem with that. So don't use this argument against the aql. What the aql does, the aql just discovers certain things, and we'll get to this as well as I go through a text that we're going to read off of. The aql doesn't just come up with something on its own, out of the blue. Otherwise, it's going to be qiyas, it's going to be istihsan. What the aql does, and we had some examples last session too. The aql will say, the sharia, the shara, gives us a law through kitab and sunnah. I want to see what can I get out of this with my aql, but a universal aql, a mathematical aql, one that I'm 100% sure, 100%, not 50, 60, 70, 80, 90%, 100% sure. What was the example? Hajj is wajib on me. So the aql who told me Hajj is wajib? The Sharia told me it's wajib. Now the aql sees this law, says, does Allah also have to tell me, hey, it's wajib for you to walk to Hajj, to you transport yourself to Mecca during the Hajj season? No, the aql can understand that. Wudu is a muqaddima, a preliminary step of salat. Allah lets me know. Does He have to also tell me now wudu is wajib on you? No, as long as I know salat is wajib, I'll know wudu is wajib on me. Right? These are things, this is what is meant by aql we're saying here. So it's not legislating something new, it's just understanding, discovering something through something else that was given us by the Sharia. Yes?
How would a fact like that, what you mentioned, can coexist with, for example, incidents in the Shia history that, for example, at the time of Aliyun, for example, Marja comes and says, for example, saying or honoring Ali ibn Waliullah is haram. Or, for example, later on, you will see Mirza Shirazi comes and in an era in Iran, he calls using tobacco is haram.
Right. Very good. Very good. So the brother is asking that we see throughout history, maraji', mujtahideen, fuqaha, they have sometimes given out a fatwa, that is something they came to with their own discretion. For example, the famous tobacco prohibition fatwa of Mirza Shirazi in Samarra. He said from this day forward, buying and selling or transacting with tobacco, because the British were using that, they had kind of, I don't know if they had weaponized it as if, but economically they had kind of, it was a way that was really helping them, this tobacco, and the Mirza Shirazi. Huh? They monopolized it, and it was hurting the economy of the Muslims. And so he said from this day forward, transactions on tobacco, are haram and are equal to fighting the 12th Imam. Right? That's what he said. So do we have a verse of Quran for this? Do we have a hadith for this? No. So what is he using? He's using his aql, right? Let me ask you a question now. When I tell you, for example, or when your marja' tells you blood is najis, okay? And then you see a drop of blood fall into a glass of water, okay? Will you drink that water now? The mug that has the logo of Mizan Institute on it, let's say, so that we don't have any hadiths or verses of Quran for it. There's a mug, Mizan Institute on it, and then a drop of blood falls in the water that you're about to drink. Will you drink it anymore? No. Who told you? Is there a verse of Quran? Is there a hadith that tells us don't drink blood out of a cup of water that has Mizan logo on it? No, obviously. And I know it's laughable, it's a dumb example, but bear with me here. The rule is clear. Now you, as a mukallaf, you are applying the rule to a real world example of it. Okay? The Mirza Shirazi, as a mujtahid also, the rule is clear. Anything that weakens the Muslim ummah is haram. Right? As a mujtahid, he sees this. And so he gives a fatwa. Ayatollah Sistani says, now's the time to go and defend against ISIS, for example. He gives this out. Did he just make up a rule now? No, the rules are already there. We already know them. But him as a mujtahid, he sees that now this is the application of the rule. And so he will write it out for the people. In other words, even if he had not written it out, if someone understands that this is hurting the economy, it's haram on them to do it anyway. So it's not the Mirza, he's now making up a law here. No, it's just the application of laws that are already there that we know from Kitab and Sunnah. Now, of course, he is utilizing a little bit of an authority that he has as a faqih as well, right? If someone else comes and tells me, oh, don't drink this water, it might not be binding on me to drink it, but if a marja' comes and gives a hukum, this water is haram for you to drink now, that's going to be him also exercising his authority. But all in all, what I'm trying to say is he didn't make anything up here. It's just the application of rules we already are aware of. So, the aql, if it makes a rule, not application, if it makes a rule, or it seems like it's making a rule, it says, you know what, wudu, let's say there was no hadith and no verse of Quran that said wudu is wajib. All we knew is salat is wajib, and that wudu is a condition of, and a preliminary step of salat. The aql can understand 2 + 2 is 4. The aql will say, okay, from a shari'i perspective, it is wajib for me to make wudu, because without it I can't do salat. You see, the wujub of that rubs off on other things, as if, okay? This is the aql he says we're talking about. Did I just make up a rule here? It looks like I made up a rule, as I said, assuming there's no verse or hadith that says wudu is wajib. The aql seems like it's making a wujub here, but in reality, what was it? It was the wujub of something else that Allah has given us, which is salat, rubbing off on something else. Us just understanding that there's a link here. This is going to be a 100% yaqeen, not dalil dhanni. It will be dalil yaqini aqli for us. These are the things. Now, let me say this on the side real quick. Someone's going to say, but these are, like, why are you opening up a chapter in usulul fiqh, for example, in ijtihad, even discussing these matters? These matters, a kindergartner can even understand them. right? 2 points I want to make here. Number one, there are some details sometimes and some intricacies that have to be discussed even with these simple things. Number one. Number two, I'll say some number two later when I'm venting a little bit about the aqli dalil. Even now, this fourth one is also interesting. It says, even you are using your aql to dismiss aql as a source of Islam. Yeah? This is an interesting one, which shows there's an aql that everyone agrees on unanimously. That's the aql we're talking about here. You are now, just like how if someone says, this is wajib because my aql figured it out and discovered this from the wujub of salat, the same way you're using your aql to dismiss aql when it comes to understanding sharia. You're attributing to sharia something actually, not knowing it. You're saying that sharia does not believe in aql. Well, how'd you get to that? Through aql. Now someone might say, no, the hadiths are saying that too. What if we didn't have hadiths? Just say, what if we didn't have hadiths? That what it seems what they're trying to illustrate here is that, look, even if you're going to dismiss it through the hadiths, it is initially your aql that's telling you have to follow these hadiths to dismiss the aql. It's going to go back eventually and it's going to stop at aql somewhere. Yeah. And so that shows that we're not talking about the aql that Abu Hanifas are using. No. We're talking about a very general, universal type of aql that can figure out, everyone, if you put it in front of anyone and explain it to them, they'll accept it. Okay? Alright, having said that, now I'm going to read off of Muzaffar here. This is in his book, Usul al-Fiqh. And we're going to spend the rest of our time on this, okay? I'm going to read off of it and explain it, because I think this really puts the nail in the coffin and really and it shows that, look, this whole fight between the akhbaris and the usulis on aql is something that it's not really something they disagree on. It just shows that some people haven't understood it properly. And as I said last session too, even on YouTube right now when I go and I see people attacking aql, they knowingly or unknowingly, I feel like they might be knowingly doing it on purpose, because their audience can't make the distinction between these aqls. They are trying to make it sound like the aql of Abu Hanifa when it's not the aql of Abu Hanifa that these guys are talking about, the usulis are talking about. They're talking about the universal aql that even these people use to dismiss aql. Alright, anyway, he says, if what is meant by aql is the theoretical aql. Let me remind us there's two types of aql I said last session. And it's not that we have two aqls. No, what is being understood through the aql, the ma'aqul, is of two types. Sometimes what you understand is the reality of things, the links between things, causality between things. Yeah, you understand concepts. Okay, that's the theoretical aql. Sometimes no. Sometimes we have the practical aql. We said that, and that is like the aql. It's not about understanding concepts. It's about understanding about what is good to be done and what is not good to be done. For example, the aql understands that dhulm is bad. Everyone agrees on that. Okay? That's called aql amali. So here we're talking about the theoretical aql. We'll get to aql amali later. Mudaffar, he says, if what is meant by aql is the theoretical aql, okay, if that's what we're talking about and you guys are against this theoretical aql, it is not possible for it to initially, and in other words, he's saying we agree with you guys. It is not possible for it to initially and independently, without the help of anything else, figure out Islamic laws. As I said, 2 rak'ah Salatul Fajr, 7 tawafs around the Kaaba. I can never figure that out with my theoretical aql. I can figure out 2 + 2 = 4. I can figure out that the cause of fire is smoke, or smoke is fire. I can figure these things out. These are all the links between things, causality, concepts. But this I can't ever figure out. Meaning that the aql cannot come to the conclusion that a given act has a given ruling in the eyes of the divine legislator, meaning Allah, without the help of shara'. I need the help of shara' through revelation, through some means, to know that Salatul Fajr is 2 rak'ah. I can't figure it out on my own. So he says, we agree with you. The reason for this is clear. It is because of the fact that the laws of Allah are tawqifiyya. Tawqifiyya means that they are dependent on Allah telling us. We can't do it on ourselves. Okay? And thus that's the term for it, the technical term, tawqifi. and thus cannot be known except by means of hearing from the one who he has appointed as the muballigh, as the communicator of these laws. Because such laws are not self-evident. It's not like day. We don't have 100% certainty. Okay, if I don't have 100% certainty, and also can I at least do it under the microscope? Nope. And also cannot be seen with the eyes or sensed with any other outer or even inner senses. There's no way I can figure out Salaatul Fajr is 2 rak'ah. Nor can be reached through experimentation and speculation, nothing. If this is the case, then how can it be expected to know these laws except through hearing from the muballigh? In other words, people, relax. We agree with you. There's no way the aql can reach a ruling. The same goes for the reasons behind Islamic laws. So sometimes you say, can I figure out Salatul Fajr is 2 rak'ah? That's the actual Islamic law. Sometimes I might not know the Islamic law, but can I at least figure out the wisdom, the masalih and mafasid? Remember we used that word expediency, the good and bad in things at least. Can we understand that? We might be able to, some of it, but how can we swear that we know this is the entire reason for this rule and that rule? We can never even figure that out. So he says the same goes for the reasons behind Islamic laws. It isn't possible to gain knowledge of them except through the communicator of the laws, the muballigh of the laws themselves. The reason being, we don't have any clear-cut rule disclosing the secrets of Allah's laws. And that's the test, brothers and sisters. That's the test. And the reasons for their legislation. We can always take a guess, but the problem is, إِنَّ الظَّنَّ لَا يُغْنِي مِنَ الْحَقِّ شَيْئًا. While conjecture does not suffice at all when it comes to the truth. He cites the verse. Mudathar cites this verse here. Therefore, whoever says Islamic laws can only be learned through hearing from the sources and not through the aql is correct. Oh akhbari, you're right. If they mean what we explained above, which is to say the aql cannot independently figure out Islamic laws and their reasons. Right? What we mean by dalil aqli though is something else, is that the theoretical aql understanding a link between a previously established law via the sharia or established law via the aql, which I'll talk about later. Okay, that's the practical aql, we'll talk about that later. He says, my aql can understand the link between a previously established law through sharia and another shari'i law. That's what we're talking about here. We're discussing, we want to see if it's possible or not. Some might say that it's not possible in some cases it is. For example, I gave you this example already, right? Salat is wajib. Who gave me this? The shara. Not my theoretical aql. The shara taught me salat is wajib. The aql tells me any preliminary steps to salat also are wajib. One of those preliminary steps that the shara tells me is a preliminary step is wudu. My aql will come to the conclusion, even if there's no verse, even if there's no hadith that tells me wudu is wajib, and just tells me that's a condition of salat, my aql can understand what? That wudu is wajib. This is also a shari'i ruling. Salat, wudu is wajib, shari'i ruling. So we have one shari'i ruling, the aql comes up with another shari'i ruling, not comes up with it, discovers that this also must be the case then. Think about it, how dumb is it for somebody to say, oh, Hajj is wajib on me, but I wasn't in Mecca during the Hajj season, I was at home. You're like, yeah, I want to show you how, Bani Israeli type of, excuses some people might be able to make. Someone might say, the guy's a billionaire, let's say, all right? The guy's a billionaire. Can he afford to fly to Hajj? Of course he can. All right, now, he says, before the 9th of Dhul Hijjah, is Hajj wajib on me? Is Hajj wajib on me? The time for Hajj hasn't come yet. Hajj, technically speaking, becomes wajib when the time for it comes. Right now, tomorrow's Salatul Fajr is not wajib on me because the time for Fajr hasn't come yet. Okay, this is important. It's when the time for Fajr comes when it becomes wajib on me. Yeah. In other words, the wujub of it becomes activated on me. Let's call it that. Okay, the wujub is there obviously, but it becomes activated when Fajr time actually sets in. That's why if I die before Fajr, do I have to have somebody make up Fajr for me? No, because it never was actively wajib on me. Okay, Hajj, same thing. Hajj becomes wajib on the 9th, right? It starts on the 9th. Okay, if it starts on the 9th, was it the 8th or 9th? 9th, right? Anyway, I always forget. So when it starts, Can someone be sitting here? Even if you're a billionaire, you can't make it there in 4 hours when it starts, let's say, right? You can't, it's impossible. So you're sitting at home, you say, Allah never made traveling to Hajj before it becomes wajib on me. He never made that wajib on me. That's where you hit them in the head. You say, Allah gave you aql. Okay? Now, someone might say, but we all know through hadiths also that traveling is part of the wujub and all that. Yeah, that's an extra step. And that's the second point I'm going to bring up later when I'm going to vent to you about this whole dalil aqli thing. But in the end, it's not wrong. This discussion is not a discussion that doesn't make any sense. It makes sense. I'm giving you examples. If there's a case where you don't have a kitab or sunnah dalil for something, but you have other things that you can work with, the aql can sometimes actually give you certainty. These are some examples. All right. Now, when the aql reaches absolute certainty, he says, regarding the link between the two, salat and wudu, if one of the two comes, the other will automatically come. If Salatul Dhuhr time arrives, automatically wujub of wudu will also come with it. These two will always be with each other. That's what the aql understands. And with that will come the hujjiyah and bindingness of certainty. Salatul Dhuhr time arrives. I'm 100% sure Salat is wajib now. I'm going to also be 100% sure wudu is also wajib on me now. That's simple. He says now, I highly doubt anyone will deny this after paying attention to the essence of what is meant by, this whole dalil aqli. And I highly doubt these aqli statements are what the akhbaris and others are denying, that wudu is wajib, for example. He says, I highly doubt they deny this. Although some of their wording might imply such, due to them not being able to distinguish between the different points and layers and dimensions and aspects of the discussion. It's like a little maybe subtle jab he's taking at them. Like, you guys didn't understand. That's why you're making such noise and commotion about this thing. Otherwise, if you understood, you would agree with us. All right? And he says, now it becomes clear. The main cause for this problem is misunderstanding what is meant by what the theoretical aql comprehends. And not being able to discern between what the aql can understand independently versus what it can understand dependently through necessitation, when there's two things and a link between them. It is the reason behind the fallacy that says the aql cannot arrive at absolutely any Islamic laws and isn't hujjah because the laws of Allah are tawqifi and there's no room for the aql's judgment in regards to them. He says this is a fallacy. We don't disagree with this statement, but we're talking about the aql coming to these conclusions independently, because the most you can gain is a dhann, and inna dhanna la yughni min al-haqqi shay'a. But we're talking about 100% certainty, and not independently, but through necessitation. While this argument negates the independent judgment of the aql, not one based on understanding the link between an Islamic law and another one. All right, so let me go back here now. You see, we said it starts with shara', the aql builds on it, and comes to a shara'i conclusion. But there's one case. You can think of a million examples of shara'i cases, right? But there's one case, and we've said it a million times already, that aql can come up with something independently, and then this aql, the second aql, will come and build on it a shara'i ruling. Where is that? The one case the aql can independently reach an Islamic law. But it's laughable. It's laughable. What is that? That is in the case of adl, not aql, adl, justice, and dhulm. The practical aql on its own, without the help of shara even, this is the argument. But this is the only case where the aql can independently figure stuff out, is when it comes to dhulm and justice. The aql can on its own, even if there's no prophets, even if there's no imams, even if there's no shara', can on its own, through the practical aql, come to the conclusion that dhulm is bad. And then once the aql amali, the practical aql, understands that dhulm is bad, the aql nadari, the theoretical aql, now comes and makes a link here, or discovers a link here. And says, if this is something that the practical aql understands, that means everyone agrees on it, everyone understands this, then if we understand everyone that has aql understands this, then the one who created the aql also understands this, that dhulm is bad. As a result, what's the conclusion? Then Allah also must say that dhulm is bad. Right? The creator of aql, our little puny aql, all of the people of the world. Remember I said last session, even Saddam Hussein, when they're executing him, what does he say? He says, you're doing dhulm to me. Everyone understands dhulm is bad. And even if they do dhulm, they'll say that this is the right thing to do. So they're saying this is what adl dictates right now. Alright? So anyway, if our little puny brains understand this, the creator of the minds and aqls and the king of all aqls must understand it too. And so this is where the aql nadari, the theoretical aql, draws a link and says, okay, if everyone understands that dhulm is bad, then what happens is, then the shara' and sharia and Allah must also say dhulm is haram. And that's the sharia ruling. This is the only time, without the help of shara', we started with aql. That's the only case. There is nothing else we can figure out. He says it explicitly and others have said it too. There is nothing that we can figure out on our own except for this one thing. Now, what's funny is, why even bother then? If this is the only time aql can do something on its own, why do we even have this discussion? And that is exactly what I want to vent about. All these discussions, and then they take ijtihad, they question ijtihad, they question taqlid, and they say, because you all brought aql, and they make it sound like aql is there opposite to or next to the other three or two. As I said before, ijma' even is just an extension of kitab and sunnah as well. Aql also is not going to have any application whatsoever, okay? Any application whatsoever, except in the cases where it gets help from shara' before it. And in that case, it's not even really a sheerly aqli thing anymore. But now look at all the hoops we have to jump through. Look at all the arguments we have to prove ijtihad is okay, yeah, but our back is against the wall. Why? Because you all added a couple things that weren't there, and the Sunnis had it, now you add it. Ijma' and aql. Yeah? I'm just thinking, is this the hill that we want to die on as mujtahideen, for example, as usuliyin? That we added, or I don't know, whenever it was added. You see, the thing is, in defense of those who have discussed this aql, if you actually look back, you'll find that this aql has been mentioned in a lot of places, and it goes back to classical times. But the aql, it never had a clear-cut definition, and I said this in our last session. Mudaffar says this in depth. He goes through the different people that have brought it up, and he shows that they never even had a clear-cut example of it, understanding of and definition of it. Sometimes even their definition was something that had to do with kitab and sunnah maybe. So there's no clear-cut definition. So we can't even call these people out who've added aql to say, oh look, why'd you add aql? That shows ijtihad is doing something that the Sunnis are doing. No. Since it was brought up here and there, yeah, and it was a meaning that even you agreed on, and then slowly it grew and expanded, the definition of it, like the discussions on it. Now, okay, we know what it is. And now, but no one wants to hear us anymore, as if, yeah? So this is why it might have been good to just not have a discussion on aql altogether, because, as I said, the application of it, super minimal. And if it has other applications that you see a lot, it's with the help of shara'. Like muqaddamatul wajib is wajib, yeah, and things like that everyone can probably understand and agree on. All right. Now it's funny because coincidentally a few days ago I was listening to Ayatollah Jawadi Amuli in some of his tafsir classes I was listening to online, and then in passing he came across this whole idea of kullu ma hakama bihi shara' hakama bihi al-aql. He said there's no base to this. It's baseless, this rule that whatever the aql says, the shara' also says. He said this. He said, look, it has bi asasas. It has no asas and asl. He's right. He's right. We don't have kitab or sunnah for it. Yeah. Yes. As I said before, aql is super important when it comes to usuluddin. I already mentioned this and explained this before. We're talking about furu'uddin. He says it's baseless. No, the aql can't figure out Islamic law on its own. And here, after all these discussions, what are we left with? Oh, yay, dhulm is bad. So dhulm must be haram. That's the only thing we can come to on our own. Well, good for you, mashallah. Yeah, that's something that Allah put in all of us anyway. فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا. Yeah. And so it isn't the aql that made up the rule that dhulm is bad. It was bad before our existence and even after we cease to exist, he says, Jawadi Amali. He's trying to prove this point that our aql didn't come up with this rule, if it has a rule anywhere. Yeah? Dhulm was bad anyway, before I existed and after I go. And so this shows that this is a rule that's there, it has its own reality. Yeah, we're just discoverers of it. And this is the only application of the aql, sheer aql. So in other words, he's trying to say that, yeah, we have to go back to revelatory sciences, which are the kitab and sunnah, if we want to figure out the sharia. All right? So this is the aql as well. I didn't want to make a big deal out of it, but I noticed that, yeah, one of the main reasons they're against ijtihad, some people, they say you bring aql. And it really does sound like, oh, you're doing what the Sunnis did. While the Imam said, don't do that. Qiyas, istihsan, dhanni, dalil, and all of that. No. That is not something that what is meant by aql. It's a very minimalistic thing. And maybe it would have been better if there were no discussions, but these discussions have to be had so that certain things are explained because people of the past have talked about it. And so that, I feel in that sense is necessary, but it's not a reason to question the veracity and validity of ijtihad. Having said all of that now, there's one more discussion I want to wrap up in 2 minutes. And that is that if we don't have, and throughout the class I said I'm going to talk about this in the end, if I don't have kitab and sunnah on something, what am I supposed to do? Well, some went to qiyas and istihsan and dalil, dhanni, aqli. We said that the imams are against that and we're against that too. Even the mujtahideen are against that. So what are we supposed to do then? There's something called usul amaliya. All right? Practical overriding rules and laws that we have for cases when the rule is not clear. And there's 4 main ones. Okay? And there are usul fiqhiyya, that is something else I don't want to talk about right now, but usul amaliyya. What are they? These are going to be rules that sometimes we get from maybe the aql itself. Sometimes we'll get it from the shara'. Okay? For example, but even if we get it from the aql, guess what? It goes back to shara'. So for example, I have 2 glasses of water here. I know one of these 2 is najis. This is called ilm ijmali. What am I supposed to do? Can I drink from one of the 2? If I drink for both, I know I drank the najasa for sure. But what if I drink one of them randomly? Is it haram? Oh, brother, it's haram to drink najis. I don't know if this is the najis one. What do we do here? Right? It starts with the najasa. It's a shar'i matter. How do I figure this out though? This has to work a little bit. Right? Assuming we don't have a hadith for it, which I'm not even sure if we do. Maybe we do, maybe we don't. Can I make wudu with this water? What if I don't drink it, I don't make wudu with it, but a drop of one of them splashes on me? Do I consider it najis or tahir? Here, they'll say it's haram to drink from even one of them. But if one of them splashes on me, I'm not najis. All right? Well, where'd you get that from? Well, there's this asalatul ihtiyat. There's an asal of doing ihtiyat in matters like these when it comes to certain cases. But there's asalat adam and najasa also that we have that also applies to other interactions that I might have with these 2 glasses of water. Which one applies? Which one doesn't? Which one overrides the other one? Sometimes it gets complicated. Why? Because we have other asals as well. I'll list the 4 for you. We have asalatul bara'a. Everything is halal until proven otherwise. If I don't have kitab and sunnah on, let's say, smoking, okay, in and of itself, let's assume smoking, just 1 puff. I know it's not going to be harmful for me, just 1 puff, and I never do it again, let's say, for example. Can I say it's haram? Or is the rule that it's halal? The rule is halal until proven otherwise. We have bara'a, we have ihtiyat, we have takhyir. When does that happen? Remember we talked about someone's drowning? What if 2 people are drowning, I can only save one of them? It's wajib independently to save this person and to save this person. Both of them are marja' taqlid and they're all equal in knowledge, so there's no preference either. I can only save one of them. Which one? Takhyir. Takhyir means it's up to you. Choose one, randomly even. And then you have Salatul Ihtiyat that we said, you have istishab. I had wudu before, now I have shak. Did I lose my wudu or do I still have it? What's the rule here? Aren't I supposed to be 100% sure that I do my salat with wudu? I'm not sure if I have it now. But yeah, but you have a previous yaqeen. Where each of these rules apply, do I have to do ihtiyat? Or can I just say halal? Which of these are usul amaliyah? When you don't have kitab, when you don't have sunnah, we have yaqeen that some of these apply. But now which one is it? That's the job of a mujtahid too. And sometimes it gets very hard to figure out which one of these applies. With that, we didn't have time to get into these ones. I don't think there's necessarily, but this is a very important discussion as well in Ijtihad and Taqlid and Fiqh and all of that. Usul al-Fiqh is usul amaliyah. It's a whole long chapter on its own. Yeah, but I think that's enough for this class. Alhamdulillah, we were able to go through a lot of discussions. I feel that what we went through is going to be enough for a person to get a good understanding of how Ijtihad works and how hard it is. But as I said before, I've said again and again, we did just scratch the surface. This was really an introduction to how Ijtihad works. Otherwise, each of these discussions, we talked about what goes into them. Otherwise, the actual discussions, that's for the hawza. Any questions before we end? Yes? Yeah, I mean, the discussions on aql, I haven't seen them take them out. They still are discussed in the hawzat. Yeah, but do they play a major role in things? The ones that go back to shar', yeah, they do play a lot of those. And as I said, some of those details have to be discussed. Muqaddimatul wajib, ijza, some examples that I gave in our last session, those ones, yeah, those are important ones. But the sheer aqli one that everyone is hating on ijtihad because of, that one really doesn't have application. As I said, Jawad Amali is just like, whatever, I don't care about it, Like there's no, And plus, add to that the fact that Shaykh Sadr and Ayatul Khuy, they said this, that we don't have anything aqli that has been established, except that we also have naqli proof for it as well in the kitab and sunnah anyway, right? So, yeah, it depends on the marja and the mujtahid that wants to have these discussions, how much importance they're going to give to it, but there are some details that can be helpful if hashed out. Yeah. Yes.
On that statement that normally made, that I kind of watched that part. So the first part that you guys were ma hakama bihi shar, hakama bihi al-aql.
No, ma hakama bil aql, yeah.
So how about the second part? The ma hakama bihi whatever shar is shar is kind of asked you to do. Actually, eventually, aql will ask you to do. That part I'm not sure.
That's perfectly normal. That's perfectly valid and accurate. كل ما حكم به العاقل, not necessarily the case that حكم به الشرع, that the shar also has the same rule for it. Whatever your aql says, the shar says so. No, not necessarily. Only dhulm. And muqaddami wajib and these ones like wudu and those ones that I said, hajj, walking to hajj or traveling to hajj. Yeah. But the opposite, the flip side, for sure is 100% all the time. Whatever the shara tells me, once I know the shara is telling me this, my aql is going to tell me that this is what is supposed to be done and there's a hikmah for it and all of that stuff, even if I don't know what the hikmah is. Yeah, so kullu ma hakama bih shar, yes, yahkum bih al-aql. The aql will also give that hukm and tell you have to follow and obey. Yeah. You have to obey. This must be something good.
Aql tells you to obey.
Yeah.
But does it come to the same conclusion? For sure. Sometimes aql doesn't.
No, it won't. It couldn't. It come to the same conclusion after it knows the shara tells it. Yeah, because the shara told me. Otherwise, yeah, if I were to, because the shara told me. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to figure it out, even if yeah. All right. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. And we took a few minutes from the namaz time too, so if we can do adhan right away, inshallah, so that Brother Nasir can get to his namaz. I was just waiting for Brother Nasir to come, that's why I put it off.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله وأن عليا ولي الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح. حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. لا إله إلا الله. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله وسلم.
الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. أشهد أن عليا ولي الله وأنه حجة الله صلوات الله وسلامه عليه. حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل. قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنا أنزلناه في ليلة القدر وما أدراك ما ليلة القدر ليلة القدر خير من 1000 شهر تنزل الملائكة والروح فيها بإذن ربهم من كل أمر سلام هي حتى مطلع الفجر. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. كذلك الله ربي. الله أكبر. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم إني أسألك موجبات رحمتك وعزائم مغفرتك والنجاة من النار ومن كل بلية والفوز بالجنة والرضوان في دار السلام وجوار نبيك محمد صلى الله عليه وآله. اللهم ما بنا من نعمة فمنك، لا إله إلا أنت، أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. وصلى اللهم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين.
الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله، أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله، أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. أشهد أن عليا ولي الله وأنه حجة الله صلوات الله وسلامه عليه. حي على الصلاة، حي على الصلاة، حي على الفلاح، حي على الفلاح، حي على خير العمل، حي على خير العمل. قد قامت الصلاة، قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، الرحمن الرحيم، مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم، صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، الرحمن الرحيم، مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم، صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد، الله الصمد، لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. كذلك الله ربي. الله أكبر. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. استغفر الله. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. استغفر الله. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم إن مغفرتك أرجى من عملي، وإن رحمتك أوسع من ذنبي. اللهم إن كان ذنبي عندك عظيما فعفوك أعظم من ذنبي. اللهم إن لم أكن أهلا أن أبلغ رحمتك فرحمتك أهلا أن تبلغني وتسعني لأنها وسعت كل شيء برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. وصلى اللهم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين.
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم إني أسألك برحمتك التي وسعت كل شيء وبقوتك التي قهرت بها كل شيء وخضع لها كل شيء وذل لها كل شيء وبجبروتك التي غلبت بها كل شيء وبعزتك التي لا يقوم لها شيء وبعظمتك التي ملأت كل شيء وبسلطانك الذي على كل شيء وبوجهك الباقي بعد فناء كل شيء وبأسمائك التي ملأت أركان كل شيء وبعلمك الذي أحاط بكل شيء وبنور وجهك الذي أضاء له كل شيء. يا نور يا قدوس يا نور together. يا نور يا قدوس يا أول الأولين ويا آخر الآخرين. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تهتك العصام. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تنزل النقام. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تغير النعام. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تحبس الدعاء. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تنزل البلاء. اللهم اغفر لي كل ذنب أذنبته وكل خطيئة أخطأتها. اللهم إني أتقرب إليك بذكرك وأستشفع بك إلى نفسك وأسألك بجودك أن تدنيني من قربك وأن توزعني شكرك وأن تلهمني ذكرك. اللهم إني أسألك سؤال خاضع متذلل خاشع أن تسامحني وترحمني وتجعلني بقسمك راضيا قانعا وفي جميع الأحوال متواضعا. اللهم وأسألك سؤال من اشتدت فاقته وأنزل بك عند الشدائد حاجته وعظم فيما عندك رغبته. اللهم عظم سلطانك وعلى مكانك وخفي مكرك وظهر أمرك وغلب قهرك وجرت قدرتك ولا يمكن الفرار من حكومتك. اللهم لا أجد لذنوبي غافرا ولا لقبائحي ساترا ولا لشيء من عملي القبيح بالحسن مبدلا غيرك. لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك وبحمدك. ظلمت نفسي ظلمت نفسي ظلمت نفسي وتجرأت بجهلي وسكنت إلى قديم ذكرك لي ومنك علي. اللهم مولاي كم من قبيح سترت وكم من فادح من البلاء أقلت وكم من عثار وقيت وكم من مكروه دفعت وكم من ثناء جميل لست أهلا له نشرت. اللهم عظم بلائي وأفرط بي سوء حالي وقصرت بي أعمالي وقعدت بي أغلالي وحبسني عن نفعي بعد آمالي وخدعتني الدنيا بغرورها ونفسي بخيانتها ومطالي. يا سيدي فأسألك بعزتك أن لا يحجب عنك دعائي سوء عملي وفعالي ولا تفضحني بخفي ما اطلعت عليه من سري ولا تعاجلني بالعقوبة على ما عملته في خلواتي من سوء فعلي وإساءتي ودوام تفريطي وجهالتي وكثرة شهواتي وغفلتي. وكن اللهم بعزتك لي في الأحوال كلها رؤوفا وعلي في جميع الأمور عطوفا. إلهي وربي من لي غيرك أسأله كشف ضري والنظر في أمري. إلهي ومولاي أجريت علي حكما اتبعت فيه هوى نفسي ولم أحترس فيه من تزيين عدوي فغرني بما أهوى وأسعده على ذلك القضاء فتجاوزت بما جرى علي من ذلك بعض حدودك وخالفت بعض أوامرك فلك الحجة علي في جميع ذلك ولا حجة لي فيما جرى علي فيه قضاؤك وألزمني حكمك وبلاؤك. وقد أتيتك يا إلهي بعد تقصيري وإسرافي على نفسي معتذرا نادما منكسرا مستقيلا مستغفرا منيبا مقرا مذعنا معترفا لا أجد مفرا مما كان مني ولا مفزعا أتوجه إليه في أمري غير قبولك عذري وإدخالك إياي في سعة من رحمتك. اللهم فاقبل عذري وارحم شدة ضري وفكني من شدي وثاقي. يا رب ارحم ضعف بدني يا رب ارحم ضعف بدني يا رب ارحم ضعف بدني ورقة جلدي ودقة عظمي. يا من بدأ خلقي وذكري وتربيتي وبري وتغذيتي هبني لابتداء كرمك وسالفي بالركاب. يا إلهي وسيدي وربي أتراك معذبي بنارك بعد توحيدك وبعد من طوى عليه قلبه من معرفتك ولهج به لساني من ذكرك واعتقده ضميري من حبك وبعد صدق اعترافي ودعائي خاضعا لربوبيتك. هيهات أنت أكرم من أن تضيع من ربيت أو تبعد من أدنيت أو تشرد من آويت أو تسلم إلى البلاء من كفيته ورحمت. وليت شعري يا سيدي وإلهي ومولاي أتسلط النار على وجوه خرت لعظمتك ساجدا وعلى ألسن نطقت بتوحيدك صادقا وبشكرك مادحا وعلى قلوب اعترفت بإلهيتك محققا وعلى ضمائر حوت من العلم بك حتى صارت خاشعة وعلى جوارحها سعت إلى أوطان تعبدك طاعها، وأشارت باستغفارك مذعنا. ما هكذا الظن بك، ولا أخبرنا بفضلك عنك يا كريم يا رب، يا كريم يا رب، يا كريم يا رب. وأنت تعلم ضعفي عن قليل من بلاء الدنيا وعقوباتها، وما يجري فيها من المكاره على أهلها، على أن ذلك بلاء ومكروه، قليل مكثور، يسير بقاؤه، قصير مدته. فكيف احتمالي لبلاء الآخرة وجليل وقوع المكاره فيها، وهو بلاء تطول مدته ويدوم مقامه، ولا يخفف عن أهله، لأنه لا يكون إلا عن غضبك وانتقامك وسخطك. وهذا ما لا تقوم له السماوات والأرض. يا سيدي فكيف بي وأنا عبدك الضعيف الذليل الحقير المسكين المستكين. يا إلهي وربي وسيدي ومولاي، لأي الأمور إليك أشكو، ولما منها أضج وأبكي، لأليم العذاب وشدتي أم لطول البلاء ومدتي؟ فلئن صيرتني للعقوبات مع أعدائك، وجمعت بيني وبين أهل بلائك، وفرقت بيني وبين أحبائك وأوليائك، فهبني يا إلهي وسيدي ومولاي. صبرت على عذابك، فكيف أصبر على فراقك؟ وهبني صبرت على حر نارك، فكيف أصبر عن النظر إلى كرامتك؟ أم كيف أسكن في النار ورجاء عفوك؟ فبعزتك يا سيدي ومولاي أقسم صادقا، لئن تركتني ناطقا لأضجن إليك بين أهلها ضجيج الآملين، ولأصرخن إليك صراخ المستصرخين، ولأبكين عليك بكاء الفاقدين، ولأنادينك أين كنت يا ولي المؤمنين، يا غاية آمال العارفين، يا غياث المستغيثين، يا غياث المستغيثين، يا غياث المستغيثين، يا حبيب قلوب الصادقين، ويا إله العالمين. أفتراك سبحانك يا إلهي وبحمدك تسمع فيها صوت عبد مسلم سجن فيها بمخالفته، وذاق طعم عذابها بمعصيته، وحبس بين أطباقها بجرمه وجريرته، وهو يضج إليك ضجيج مؤمل لرحمتك، ويناديك بلسان أهل توحيدك، ويتوسل إليك بربوبيتك يا مولاي. فكيف يبقى في العذاب وهو يرجو ما سلف من حلمك؟ أم كيف تؤلمه النار وهو يأمل فضلك ورحمتك؟ أم كيف يحرقه لهيبها وأنت تسمع صوته وترى مكانه؟ أم كيف يشتمل عليه زفيرها وأنت تعلم ضعفه؟ أم كيف يتقلقل بين أطباقها وأنت تعلم صدقه؟ أم كيف تزجره زبانيتها وهو يناديك يا ربه؟ أم كيف يرجو فضلك في عتقه منها فتترك فيها؟ هيهات ما ذلك الظن بك ولا المعروف من فضلك، ولا مشبه لما عملت به الموحدين من برك وإحسانك، فباليقين أقطعوا لولا ما حكمت به من تعظيم جاحديك وقضيت به من إخلال معانديك، لجعلت النار كلها بردا وسلاما، وما كانت لأحد فيها مقرا ولا مقاما، لكنك تقدست أسماؤك أقسمت أن تملأها من الكافرين من الجنة والناس أجمعين، وأن تخلد فيها المعاندين، وأن تجل ثناؤك قلت مبتدئا، وتطولت بالإنعام متكرما، أفمن كان مؤمنا كمن كان فاسقا لا يستوون. إلهي وسيدي، فأسألك بالقدرة التي قدرتها وبالقضية التي حتمتها وحكمتها وغلبت من عليه أجريتها، أن تهب لي في هذه الليلة وفي هذه الساعة كل جرم أجرمته، وكل ذنب أذنبته، وكل قبيح أسررته، وكل جهل عملته، كتمته أو أعلنته، أخفيته أو أظهرته، وكل سيئة أمرت بإثباتها الكرام الكاتبين الذين وكلتهم بحفظ ما يكون مني، وجعلتهم شهودا علي مع جوارحي، وكنت أنت الرقيب علي من ورائهم والشاهد لما خفي عنهم، وبرحمتك أخفيت وبفضلك سترت، وأن توفر حظي من كل خير تنزل أو إحسان تفضل أو بر تنشر أو رزق تبسط أو ذنب تغفر أو خطر تستر. يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا ربي يا ربي يا رب، يا إلهي وسيدي ومولاي ومالك رقي، يا من بيده ناصيتي، يا عليما بضري ومسكنتي، يا خبيرا بفقري وفاقتي، يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا ربي يا ربي يا رب، أسألك بحقك وقدسك وأعظم صفاتك وأسمائك أن تجعل أوقاتي في الليل والنهار بذكرك معمورا، وبخدمتك موصولا، وأعمالي عندك مقبولا، حتى تكون أعمالي وأورادي كلها وردا واحدا، وحالي في خدمتك سرمدا. يا سيدي يا من عليه معولي، يا من إليه شكوت أحوالي، يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا ربي قو على خدمتك جوارحي، واشدد على العزيمة جوانحي، وهب لي الجد في خشيتك والدوام في الاتصال بخدمتك، حتى أصرح إليك في الميادين السابقين، وأسرع إليك في المبادرين، وأشتاق إلى قربك في المشتاقين، وأدنو منك دنو المخلصين، وأخافك مخافة الموقنين، وأجتمع في جوارك مع المؤمنين. اللهم ومن أرادني بسوء فأرد، ومن كادني فكد، واجعلني من أحسن عبيدك نصيبا عندك، وأقربهم منزلة منك، وأخصهم زلفة لديك، فإنه لا ينال ذلك إلا بفضلك. وجد لي بجودك، واعطف علي بمجدك، واحفظني برحمتك، واجعل لساني بذكرك لهجا، وقلبي بحبك متيما، ومن علي بحسن إجابتك، وأقلني عثرتي، واغفر زلتي، فإنك قضيت على عبادك بعبادتك، وأمرتهم بدعائك، وضمنت لهم الإجابة. فإليك يا ربي نسبت وجهي، وإليك يا ربي مددت يدي، فبعزتك استجب لي دعائي، وبلغني مناي، ولا تقطع من فضلك رجائي، واكفني الشر الجن والإنس من أعدائي. يا سريع الرضا، يا سريع الرضا، يا سريع الرضا، اغفر لمن لا يملك إلا الدعاء، فإنك فعال لما تشاء. يا من اسمه دواء، وذكره شفاء، وطاعته غنى، ارحم من رأس ماله الرجاء، وسلاحه البكاء. يا سابغ النعم، يا دافع النقام، يا نور المستوحشين في الظلام، يا عالما لا يعلم، صل على محمد وآل محمد، وافعل بي ما أنت أهله. وصلى الله على رسوله والأئمة الميامين من أهله، وسلم تسليما كثيرا كثيرا. Let us recite Surah Al-Fatiha for our marhumeen, Shuhada al-Islam, Shuhada Palestine. Remember our loved ones, remember those who are suffering, those who are going through oppression. بحق محمد وآل محمد صلوات على محمد وآله. اللهم صل على محمد وآله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. زيارة. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك يا رسول الله، السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدتي نساء العالمين، السلام على الحسن والحسين سيدي شباب أهل الجنة، السلام على 9 المعصومين من ذرية الحسين، السلام عليك يا أيها القائم يا مهدي، عجل الله تعالى فرجك، وسهل الله مخرجك وظهورك، والسلام عليكم جميعا يا أهل بيت النبوة ورحمة الله وبركاته.